Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of City on a Hill. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of DeCourcy walking in on Dan and Sinclair talking, and obviously, your boy Dan's got his cape on. He's caping super hard for Sinclair, like, oh yeah, like, but blah, 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 blah. And obviously for DeCourcy, he's not buying any of the BS coming out their mouths, and especially Sinclair, when he was like, hey, like these women, he's like, I know you're just trying to do your job. And then what does he do? He throws Jackie under the bus, because to be fair, Jackie was the somewhat only witness they could call upon, and Dryden knew that. I don't know if that's why he was okay with the whole, oh, you sleep with Letitia thing, just because, like, well, that's how he rolls, or because he knew, like, oh, if you ever step out of the line, I'll be able to throw this in your face. And obviously it pisses off DeCourcy. It's like, well, to be fair, he didn't, well, I'm trying to remember, he didn't sleep with Letitia after finding out about things. Granted, Jenny does throw it in his face. It's like, no, you went to work the day after. You still went to the work with him even after knowing what he did. Because regardless of it all, Jackie still didn't immediately take action upon finding out some extent of what Sinclair had done. Granted, he did eventually build up a case against him, but still, it took him a little too long to jump in the action on that stuff, especially after seeing Bet. That should have been enough, but he still kind of rolled around either way because of the whole, like I said, I could be misremembering. I don't think him and Letitia slept together. He still was willing to let her fill him up and stuff like that in the hospital, even though your wife is still there. Granted, you probably thought she left, but then she came back. Once again, doesn't make it any better, doesn't justify it, just, it is what it is. So, now it's like, right, they can't use Jackie's testimony, because, yeah, he might have witnessed everything with Bet, but it's like, no, the jury's going to immediately see you as a scumbag, because it's like, right, why would we believe you when you're not a good person? It's just going to throw your credibility out. So now, of course, he has to clean up that mess of a situation. And now they're trying to figure out, well, what do they do? Because they can't get any of the witnesses to testify because none of them are willing to. And it's like, well, understandable. So, like, Sinclair has the power he has over them. Plus, after going through what they've gone through, why would they want to face him again? It's just a reminder. They just want to put this all behind them. But also, once again, Sinclair's a powerful man who can make things worse for them. So... But it's actually Jackie visiting Bet. And he's like, no, let me do all the talking. He's like, I mean, that's kind of what I do best anyway. You don't even have to talk. But he talks about, Jenny's circumstances and Benny's circumstances. It's like, right, like he couldn't do anything to take away their pain. And he's like, I can't even do anything. That's what frustrates him the most. It's like, they've been through what they've been through, and I can't do anything to alleviate it. I can't take away that pain. And he's like, but Benny, she's strong, and she's persevering. And he's telling Bet, like, I can't take away your pain either, but at the very least, I can make it so that your voice is heard, that you are heard. Because Dryden has silenced so many of these women. And it's like, right, if you choose not to talk, like, because she was like, right, is your daughter okay? Like, how old is she? She's like, oh, she's 18, but she's okay. So, and it's like, Benny's way of dealing with things is her way, and he's not even saying, like, you should do it too. He's like, no, you have your way of processing and dealing with things, so you want to talk to me, you can talk to me, but if you say, like, you want nothing to do with this, I will leave you alone, and you will never have to see my face again. And so Bet does sit down with DeCourcy, and for her, it is a situation of, she knows how this looks. She knows that the moment she goes to court with Sinclair, they're going to, like, his lawyers are going to rip her apart. The fact is, they're going to like, oh, if this and that, why'd you take the money? She's going to look opportunist. And it's like, she knows that. And she brought the money to be like, I took the money so he would leave me alone. I never have to see him again. I never spent a dime of it. But that won't matter. It's like, regardless of it all, because the lawyers could, Sinclair's lawyer could easily twist that around and be like, no. Like, she just filled that in. She took the money regardless, even if she didn't spend it. Like, maybe she was waiting for a bigger payout or something. Like, that's how you could definitely see, like, a lawyer spinning it in that direction. So, when the time comes, they do arrest Sinclair. And I do love that story that, Jackie told, and I love Sinclair. Like, yeah, like your stories you tell. He's like, you always put like an interesting spin on. And he's like, yeah, there's this one guy I knew. He's like, what was that? I forgot. Whipple bought, so it was something like that the guy kept saying over and over again, and Jackie was like, yeah, that's all I remember the guy for. And then he's like, and any only thing anyone will ever remember of you is you being a rapist piece of shit. Which I was like, I like that whole, like, once again, I love when, like, Jackie kind of goes on his stories and then he makes such a poignant point, because it's like, right, sometimes in our heads when we just remember someone, we kind of remember them for that one thing. You know, it's kind of like Jason Biggs' character from American Pie is a weird example to make, but it's like, yeah, he will always be I'm sure Jason Biggs will always be associated with, like, oh yeah, you fucked a pie. He's like, for a movie, yeah, but it's still like, you're the American Pie guy who fucked a pie. I think there's always going to be some element of that to him. So I'm using like a very, very softball example in comparison to like the fucking depressing, dark example the whole Sinclair thing is, but it's that, like, right. So that's what you'll always be to people. And he's like, oh, I heard you try to get Letitia to join, like, turn on me, but she loves me. She's my wife. It's like, oh, you must really love her. He's like, no, I don't. It's like, wow, Jackie, look at you sounding like it's like, wow, even I don't believe you when you say that. It's like, wow, she really must have done something. You must really be in love with her. But Jackie was kind of like, no. But I think it's just the thing of, because even he had thrown it out there. It's like, yeah, but how old was Letitia? Like, was she another person as well? Did that whole relationship start in that similar way where it became a thing? Because it's like, oh, did you even love any of those women? He's like, yes, of course I did. He's like, yeah, but despite all that, they didn't love you back. So what did you do? You had to drug them and abuse them, And it's like, right, here you are getting arrested. And they went to, DeCourcy shows up, but Letitia, she, in the worst way possible, held it down, because she's like, no, I'm standing by my husband. These allegations, I had no idea about it. And, jumping around a little bit, I am bummed she didn't take the fall for it, because she was just as culpable. She knew but I mean, like, you can't prove that. Like, what she knew and when she knew it, you can't really prove that. Like, it's not like, you can't someone shouldn't be in trouble just because they're married to a monster. In her case, she should be, because she's associated with it, but it's like, people who didn't know their significant others or someone in their family was a monster, you shouldn't really punish them for that. But once again, in Letitia's case, you wholeheartedly should. I mean, because at the end of the day, we don't know what fueled Dryden to be the monster he is. And I love that, of course, he was saying that in court. Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter, The same thing for Letitia. Like, maybe because of her background, she was like, oh, I made it big. I'm in a good position. So whatever he needs, because he took care of me. He brought me up in society. Like, he gave me a place where I feel like I finally belong. I have something that I don't want to threaten. So it's like, she has it's more so it's a self-preservation tactic of not turning on Sinclair, because it's like, right, he's going to sail through this, he's going to be fine, and when he's going to be fine, I'm going to be right by his side, and everything's going to be okay, and we can just continue as like nothing's the issue. Because once again, we've got these 5 women, they've been married for 12 years, God knows how many women over the course of that time frame. Like, there could be even more out there that they're just not aware of. It's even sad when you think about, like, what all the stuff that Bet had said, where she said, like, it took, like, the Quaalude stayed in her body for like 72 hours, and it was like, right, she was still a little fuzzy, she was still thinking like, oh, I drunk too much, but then as the fog cleared, that's when she remembered, and then, like, she felt like at one point it was too late to say anything at that point, and then she started to hate herself because of that, because she felt like, oh, I waited too long, now I can't say anything, like, there's no point, and now I've also taken the money. That's why it's just, because she said, like, even when she thinks about it now with Sinclair, like, that fall kind of comes back a little bit. But the fact is that when DeCourcy was like, oh, like, you might want to take a walk as Forensics does its thing, and Letitia was like, no, I'm fine here. I'm like, she seems super confident. They run the place over. Sadly, they know how to keep a tight ship, sadly, because it's like, the place is clean and Letitia's so smug about it. But that's when your boy Jackie made his move, because it's like, right, they need more, because this isn't enough. Which I love. He's like, it's always more with you, D. So he ends up leaving and ends up tracking down Mustafa and ends up getting Victoria on the witness list. And I love it, that look on Sinclair's face when he saw his daughter's name. It's like, what? It's, oh yeah, your daughter's testifying against you. See you in court. And for him in the car, he's like, yeah, I know I've always pushed her and I was kind of mean sometimes. It was for the sake of making her stronger. But the fact that she's willing to testify against me, it's like, she actually hates me. And he's like, you know what? We need to, I need a chance to talk to my daughter, like, try and convince her not to do this. His lawyer's saying, like, we need to put her on the stand and rip her apart. That's the only way we can handle this. But Sinclair's also like, yeah, don't tell Letitia about it. It's like, why not? It's like, well, you know, I want her to keep thinking everything's okay, because he knew the moment she found out about Victoria, because Victoria would be the ultimate nail in his coffin, and it ultimately is, but it's like, yeah, your own daughter testifying against you super doesn't look good, and if Letitia knew that ahead of time, she might want to jump ship and start preserving herself, so she might, decide to testify against Sinclair. It doesn't come to that, but it could have. And I love that moment when DeCourcy does his thing. And I even love that Blair gave him advice, being like, right, I know you said we're not on the same team, but a creep like Dryden needs to go down. So she's like, yeah, the younger demographic will side more so with the woman, but the older generation, because it's the whole, we'll toughen up kid type of mentality. Like, they probably won't always realize it, but they probably won't be as sympathetic, in that regard. So she was telling DeCourcy to speak to all the gray hair people, like the older generation that's a part of the jury. So, and I think that was a poignant point that he makes as he's making all his points, and then dropping the bomb about about Victoria. And you see Letitia almost like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, she got blindsided by that. I'm like, boom. And DeCourcy, almost like a rap battle, almost being like, oh, everything you're going to say, I'm already going to say it. And my client, this witness knows that they're going to ridicule her, embarrass her, and she's still willing to testify. So what's that say about that? What about the fact that his own daughter is willing to testify against him? What does that say about him? Like that she hates you so much that she's willing to testify against you. And when he went home, Letitia already went bye-bye. And sadly, he took the easy way out. It's almost poetic. And not like the poeticness of he's trying to overdose himself on Quaaludes. He didn't die. He's in a coma now. So, but it's like, yeah, the case will continue if he wakes up. So I was like, all right, that sucks. So, and even Victoria's like, yeah, this is kind of my dad's way of always kind of getting his way. There is no true justice here. It's not like, he shouldn't get the easy way out of I'm just going to die or I'll get to spend my time in a coma, because this could drag on for years and he'd never see any punishment. It's like, he just gets to be in a hospital bed taking care. It's all that until someone may ultimately end up pulling a plug on him. And even then it's like, no. He needs to live because he needs to go to jail for what he's done. He doesn't get to go the easy way, So it's kind of like there is no justice in this regard. And then Dan, which he said, hey, I won my position. Everything's great. DeCourcy, you're a pain in the ass, but oh man, you're built for this job. But DeCourcy's just kind of like, you worked with him for so long. Like, did you have any instances? No, I knew nothing about it, And even if I knew, there was nothing to prove. It's like, yeah, but you could have looked deeper like we did. Like, we looked and we found all these skeletons. You were close enough to him. You could have found some too. But the fact is so even before now, you've always been looking the other way. DeCourcy even going as far as saying right, I wonder how did Dryden know that we were looking into it? Because once again, DeCourcy and Jackie talked about it a couple episodes back, being like, oh, could Letitia have been the one to tell him? Because it's like, how did he know ahead of time? And it's like, right, Guy Dan gave him the heads up. So it's like, right, DeCourcy's like, I'm going to be looking into that. And that's like, well, that could compromise where you are, but I don't know if there's enough of a breadcrumb trail leading from Sinclair to Dan to be able to do that. But we'll see. At the same time, this is all going down. There's the whole situation with Siobhan. She was able to talk to, convince, I think, a judge to side with her in the whole Needham industry situation of, there is this gray area of, cool, I can, Pepe can get the money, great. It's going to be, a fund, and he can't get it until, he's 18. But she's also saying, because he's a minor around it because he's 15, that a minor was kind of inadvertently kind of hurt because of what they did. So it means that what they have been a part of, the whole Hernando incident, should be known publicly. But it's the judge kind of sided with Siobhan, but the head of Needham, she's kind of like, oh, you're doing this for publicity and stuff like that. And I love that she's trying to pretend like she cares. It's like, no, you're a corporate person just trying to cover your business's ass because you know this will open you up to probably so much litigation and, you know, it'll like crush your business. So, but she's trying to put it on Siobhan like, oh, like you're kind of a terrible person, you know, because when when the camera lights are on, don't stare directly into them. It's like, oh, you're such a dick. But I keep about to say Sinclair. Siobhan feels conflicted about it because it's like, right, doesn't it feel like I'm boasting about a case or something like this? It's like, yeah, it's kind of part of your job to kind of like do that. I forgot the example that she used about like, yeah, but wouldn't it be like the same equivalency as something else? But of course he was like, right, this is kind of like part of your job is your work. And so like you did a good job. This is part of your career. So part of it's kind of like, hey, you gotta kind of talk stuff out. So she's the one that's kind of got to do the interview. So I'm curious how, was it the Malcolm family, like how they felt about seeing her on TV and stuff like, I don't know, like probably her parading around. Like they got their feelings about it, and I don't know. I'm sure that's another reason, like considering everything. It's because even the head of Needham Industries was like, oh yeah, this way you could get all that bad press out of it. It's like, yeah, the bad press that you leaked to the press. It's like, yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was just kind of an interesting thing, but I was kind of nervous when there was still enough time in the episode and DeCourcy and Siobhan are like going to get something. I was like, oh boy. And the glass shatters. I was like, oh God. I was like, I was so scared for Siobhan, but then luckily DeCourcy rode up with that guy with the gun and being like, yo, walk away or I will kill you. And Siobhan had to be like, yo, DeCourcy, that's enough. You don't have to like keep the gun on him. And the guy's like, oh, next time I'll bring mine. So I doubt that storyline's done because it's like, right, the mob is connected to Needham Industries, making them look bad, like cuts into their business because they probably get like a little bit of a kickback, and it's just like that's probably a front for their business as well. So it's really messing up their business. So I think DeCourcy and Siobhan probably going for it will find themselves in a crosshair. And that's the most frustrating thing for DeCourcy is like, you didn't tell me about this guy. He's like, first you didn't tell me about the Lulu thing, but for her it's like, I wanted to kind of deal with things in my own time and my own pace. Cause she's like, if I let you know, I figured you were going to go off and do something reckless. He's like, reckless? He's like, you don't trust my own discretion about this type of stuff. She's like, yeah, but you pulled a gun on that guy. You would have killed him. He's like, yeah, you're right. I would have killed him to protect you. You know, it's like, right, because we've been through this before, baby. Like, I was scared. I lost our child. I could have lost you because of Anton last season. I'm not about to be, don't ever put me in a position where I don't need to be kept in the dark about what you're dealing with. Lean on me. I am here. That's what a marriage is supposed to be about. Which, speaking of marriages, oh boy, Letitia coming in to do one last middle finger. It's like, oh, you're so slimy. Because it's her way to be like, right, you uprooted my entire life, Jackie. I'm gonna fuck you over one last time I spilling the beans to Jenny. Once again, yeah, like the fact is he had no business like sleeping with Letitia, but also Jenny's like, oh, so you did kind of still go back to work the next day. And he was like, it's not like she's twisting it around and she's like, okay, so, and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to try and defend myself with some story. She's like, you're not? She's like, oh, really? Because anytime there's ever been anything, you try to like you sure you don't want to use anything with your mom, to explain why you are the way you are. And for her, it's just kind of like, that's always been your move to always do that. So she's like, right, I went to see my half brother, which I'll talk about later. And the same thing I went to see my father, which I'll also talk about later. And she's like, also, I fucked someone. It's like, and he's like, you what? And she's like, yeah. He's like, who was it with? And she's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, it's with who I think it was, wasn't it? And she's like, yes, it was. And he's like, wow, I guess now that just makes you just as big of a piece of shit as I am. And she's like, yeah, it does. She's like, I guess we are fucking perfect for each other. And he's like, well, I'll pack my bags and leave. She's like, no, I'm gonna leave because I can't be in this house. There's too many bad memories. Because, I mean, that house is her, as her mom made it clear, like, I want my house back. Type of situation. So there's just so much associated with that house. Not only all that, but also like the Jackie bullshit. But her seeing her brother was interesting. Well, I mean, half brother, really. Which that actor, I shouldn't learn his name because I've seen him in so many things. I want to say, and even Showtime wise, I want to say the most recent thing I saw him in was Ray Donovan, because he was one of the Sullivans, if I remember correctly, in season 7. Either way, meet him, and he's pretty excited to see Jenny. In fact, he actually already knew about Jenny's existence. He just never reached out to her. In fact, he was actually at her wedding, but he didn't come in because it's like, right, this is your day. You look beautiful. I didn't want to ruin it. Also, Dad wasn't there. It's like, well, I didn't invite him. And it's this interesting thing of he has a better relationship with their dad than she does. And it's like, yeah, their dad kind of was out of his life pretty early on. And it's like, yeah, I was upset. I mean, at first I was like happy that he was gone, but then eventually that happiness turned to like, yeah, anger that he isn't around. And Jenny's like, yeah, you would have probably been better off. She's like, in her mind, is like, I would have been happier just to have him never in my life, but for him to have him in my life the way I did, and just, things being what they were and are. But the reason why, and maybe on some level, because we don't know the time frame wise, but maybe everything that happened with Jenny made him want to be a better father to her half brother. Maybe. But he's like, yeah, like after he found out about everything, he started paying for everything. In fact, he comes to visit me once a month, first, Friday of the month or something like that. And it's like, I mean, yes, he's not the most cuddly person to kind of have around, but at the very least, he does love me in his own way, which Jenny kind of wishes, like, obviously she harbors a lot of anger towards him, and understandable. And she's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, you can come see me whenever you want to. You don't even have to ask, like, come as many times as you want to. Now she knows, because there was a whole conversation about like, are you happy? And she was like, yeah, my life is good, but she's like, no, I'm not happy, because for him, it's like, you're kind of holding on to this thing, and it's like something you kind of have to let go. And that is something she does. She visits her dad's like, I'm sorry for hitting you. And, at first she's like, what you did to me, I kept blaming myself. It's like, oh, maybe it's something in me that caused you to do that it was on me. And ultimately, she's like, you had 30 years to reach out to me and apologize. It's kind of too late now to try and offer any form of an apology. And, he even says this line where he's like, Jenny, if you don't know this now, then you should. You've never needed jack shit from me. And she's like, wow, that might be the kindest thing you've ever said to me, Dad. And it's, she didn't get, I think, the resolution she was kind of hoping for, but I think this is what she needed. Because she even said, like, right, I was hoping maybe, like, talking to you would kind of make it all go away, but it won't. She's like, the only way I can deal with it is by just dealing with it. It's just always going to be a part of me, and finding a way to kind of move forward in spite of that, with it. It's going to be how she deals with things. So probably the last time she's going to interact with her dad, and I think this gave her the closure she needed. And you put that in conjunction with her like moving out. Now, whether that's a permanent thing, how they're going to handle things with Benny when it comes to that conversation, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if she's going to be too heartbroken about it, because it's interesting juxtaposition between this and Chris's situation, but we'll get to that in a second. But I think for Jenny, it's like, right, holding on to something nice in her life, because she has Benny, she has friends, but she's kind of not happy with her life. But being able to take care, be a guardian to her brother, kind of look after him, kind of having someone else nice in her life. Her dad's not great, her Jackie's definitely not great either, so that's definitely going to be interesting to see. But going into the Chris situation of it all, his daughter's asking him, like, right, Mom's going on a date. Don't you want to know with who? And he's like, no, I actually don't. And she says it because she's hoping that is going to be enough to spur Chris into, making a move. It's like, oh, are you and Mom ever planning on getting back together? Because she has her notion of like, well, marriage can't be that great because look at you guys, like all the struggles you've been through. It's like, well, yeah, but that's, stress is part of a relationship. Like there's going to be stressful moments, but sometimes marriage can also ease the stress. He was like, yeah, there was that time your mom took care of me when I was sick. Instead of going out, she stayed, put rags on me and made sure I was okay. And it's like, well, Mom's kind of tired of taking care of people, you included. So it's like, yeah, I got it. And he's like, that's why I want to give her space. Ends up hooking up with, what was home dude's name? I'm blanking on it. They said it in the episode. Oh, Duke. his wife, because his like, Casey's like, yo, so must be hard. She's like, yeah, finding out my husband wasn't that great of a person. Fact is, he died because he would roll drug dealers and then like a shootout with other cops. The person I thought killed him didn't turn out to be end up killing him, and now it's like, right, everything's so like topsy-turvy. But it's like, yeah, the people who actually are responsible are in jail, so there's some monochrome of peace there, but also knowing like, right, your husband even wasn't the person you thought he was. So Chris was like, yo, like, I'm actually here, like, take you out on a date. And she's like, how about we skip that? We're already here. And I was wondering if he was going to stop things partway through because of the conversation now with his daughter. Seemed like that wasn't the case. But when he came home, his wife is like, cleaning stuff up. And she's like, I'm sorry. With everything that went on, I pushed you away instead of leaning in closer. So how about we try to make this work? And he said no, which their son is on better terms with Chris now after the talk with DeCourcy last episode. But daughter's not. She's like, oh, Aiden was right about you. You said no. She reached out to you because it's like, we could have been a family again. And he's like, let me explain. Because I think for him, it's a situation of maybe in his mind that, no, you deserve better than me. Because all that I've been doing, like, hooking up with 2 ladies of the night, hooking up with a widow. It's like, yeah, I'm not the best person to be in a relationship with right now. All that, I think maybe that's where he's coming from. And it's like, she deserves to be happy. And, if she's with me, all she will be doing is stressing again, and she'll be not able to kind of, like, I think for him, probably from his perspective, it's like, no, she deserves to move on. She has every right to move on. I don't want to kind of hold her back anymore. She shouldn't have to take care of me. She should be able to look out for herself and be happy. Because what does she do? Instead of going on her date, she sacrificed herself yet again. And it's like, oh, you got to clean out this, or you're going to get like bugs or whatever. It's like she still kind of feels the need to kind of look after Chris and take care of him. And I think it's just maybe the guilt over just, his hookups. Because like, oh, especially because she did not go on her date, but like he slept with 3 people subsequently since their split. And it's like, who knows if his wife slept with anyone. So maybe that, along with everything else, makes him go like, no, like, maybe that makes him feel even more so like, no, your mom deserves better. So we'll see, but that family situation is going to be a little rocky. I mean, like I said, him and his son are in a better place, but probably upon hearing like, oh, especially because they make a point to say like, yo, mom's like crying all the time because of this whole thing. So, I mean, I think it all influences those decisions. That's at least where that's my perspective on this whole situation. Maybe I'm misreading, like, I'm not trying to cut him any bail. I'm just trying to say, I'm assuming from his perspective, that's why he's doing what he's doing, but I could be 100% wrong, so we'll see. But I really love the ending where Jackie is sitting there with Sinclair and saying, like, oh, like, there was these, he was like, basically, people will basically say 3 things. Like, one is, why me? Because they need to understand the pain that they're going through. If they can understand why it happened, then it could make it easier to go away. But then eventually it's like, yeah, it turns to God, and it's like, turns into a, why God? Like, why did this happen to me type of thing? And then, because it's a thing of almost trying to figure out, like, right, there has to be a larger scale reason, like, why did God do this to me type of thing. And then 3, what's for breakfast? That the fact is that, so, like, that's how things kind of get minusculed in people's minds, because it's like, right, something bad will happen or whatever, and then, like, what do? You just have, oh, what's for breakfast? It's like you minuscule it and you just become such a nothing thing. And it's almost like that's how we find ourselves in the cycles we do. But he was like, you told us that 3rd thing is not an option for us. Our job is too important. We can't just be like, oh, what's for breakfast and forget what happens. Like, no, we need to carry that with us, And Jackie kind of takes that and says, like, right, you, I know you can hear me. And I'm going to be here every day with you until you wake up, till I either drag you to jail or I drag you to the morgue. And I know you can hear me, so fuck you. And that moment, DeCourcy walking up too, because it's like, no, they're both like, no, you're not going to get away with just what you're doing. And I just love that just time and time again, their circumstances end with them like together. It's like these 2 are always brought together by some commonality. So this is probably the one season where they probably ended up on the same side more positively. I'm also surprised Jackie didn't immediately, I'm surprised it didn't end with him getting his job back. Still could end up being something that happens in the future. We'll ultimately have to wait and see, but I thought that was such an interesting thing, because I think it is right, we both want you to wake up, Sinclair, so we're ready to take you down the moment we won't be forgetting anytime soon. Every day we'll come out to visit you, just waiting for the moment you wake up so we can take you down. At the time of me recording this, it hasn't been confirmed whether or not City on a Hill is returning for a 4th season. Obviously, fingers crossed, hoping that it does. I'd love to see what the next season would look like, considering the shift in where everyone's circumstances are. Everything with Jenny and spending more time with her half-brother. I'm worried that, what she's trying to, get from that relationship and that dynamic, I think it is her pulling away from a lot of the bad, toxic elements of her life, finally kind of making a clean break of things, but also keeping it with her. I don't think her and Jackie are done, because it's almost it's fucked up as we are. We're kind of a fucked up perfect match in heaven, but I don't know. I don't know what that's like. And once again, with the Benny of it all, what they're going to do on that front. But I just worry that the half-brother situation isn't going to be the thing that Jenny thinks it's going to be, but we'll see. Obviously everything between DeCourcy and Siobhan, obviously he's upset with her now. I think he'll be able to get over it, but it's still that thing of, tell me these type of things. You don't have to go through it alone. And like I said, I think they're going to be in the eye of the mob next season, so that could be the major overarching storyline next season potentially. And also tying that in with the whole Guy Dan situation of DeCourcy potentially trying to take him down. Jackie and the whole, because I doubt we're ever circle back to Letitia's probably in the win. She's doing her own thing. Same thing for the Sinclair thing. He's just going to stay in a coma. Probably hear little rumbles here and there from Jackie about going to oh God, go my daily visit to Guy. I mean, not Guy, Sinclair. Probably won't see him in the coma or anything like that, but they might make little references here and there, letting you know, nope, he still hasn't woken up yet. So that type of thing. But like I brought up too, will Jackie get his badge back after everything, or at least a tip to? Obviously, Karen is not too keen on getting his job back, not unless he ends up becoming an investigator with DeCourcy. But I'm yeah, they already have Chris for that, so I don't. And it obviously Jackie, despite everything, is still on DeCourcy's shit list, rightfully so, but still. So. There's a lot of interesting threads. It would be so interesting to see where they take in the 4th season. Like I said, fingers crossed, hoping we get one, because I'd love to see where things would take us in a potential season 4. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.